Grandma and Grandpa, take two.
That's what it is.
Okay. No. Now who starts?
Grandpa, if you could start by telling us about your childhood, your family, where you grew up, the school you attended.
I grew up, I was born and raised on the east side of Flint.
Mm-hmm.
And Bell Avenue. And the number was 1537. And then
Which is the last four numbers of my social security number.
That's neat.
that's only part of it. And then I worked when I was big enough to pull a wagon for the local grocery store. And we lived at 1537, and the grocery store was 1601, so it was just a half a block.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I worked there until I went into service, all the way through junior high school and high school. Same place. All on the east side of Flint.
You mentioned when you were old enough to pull a wagon. What did you do when you first started at the grocery store?
I would deliver groceries. If you didn't have supermarkets like you have today,
Mm-hmm.
it was a corner grocery. And they'd give me the groceries, and I'd put them in my wagon, and I'd pull them to the house, wherever it might be, and I got a nickel a trip.
How old were you?
Lots of money. And then, I don't know what, from there I went into service. You were talking about when I was in junior high school, I did run a movie projector, and we had silent films that we seen on Thursday. Tuesday of each week, the guy come in with a talking projector, and he showed that. And then also, along with this projecting business, we used to have each class, each class would have a morning sing. Instead of having homeroom, they'd go into this auditorium and we'd have a sing. And I run the projector with slides, and the words would be on the wall, or on the screen.
So everyone knew what to
They
sing.
knew what they were singing.
Okay.
And in high school, I didn't do nothing but go to school. And I didn't have no lunch hour, because I went in and I got out at 12:30 or 1 o'clock, and I was at work at the store at 2. So
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. 1 older brother than me and 2 younger ones. Unfortunately, both of the youngest ones have passed away.
And their names are?
And there's my older brother Glenn and my sister Jackie. Aunt Jackie, I guess, to you guys. Charlie, what are you eating
Your
now?
younger brothers were Earl and Junior.
And Junior, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I should say their names.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's it.
Oh,
And
Grandma. Oh, go ahead.
I wouldn't say anything else, unless you want me to talk about going into service, but you better let Grandma talk.
Right. Well, how did you get along with your siblings when you were growing up?
Well, pretty good. I didn't see much of them.
Okay.
My brother Junior was the closest to me. My brother Glenn, the oldest, he graduated in 34, and of course in 34 there weren't many jobs around, and he went into the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps. You ever hear of it?
Tell us about it, please.
Well, I can't tell you too much other than the Corps was tied with hang on, let's see, one branch of the government that takes care of the parks, I guess. And they were run by military officers, but all the high school kids or young kids that joined it worked in the woods, and they would plant trees and made the state parks that we didn't, and federal parks we didn't used to have, and the CCs is what took care of them and developed most of them. So that was in the 30s that was going on.
So is that kind of like the DNR is to our day,
The
in a way?
DNR, it
Kind
might
of.
have been the Department of, I think it must have, but I don't know
Okay.
for sure.
So he was away, so
He-
you didn't
he
see him
left.
very much.
'Cause
Time
he was
he-
5 years older.
He was 5 years older than me, so when he left, I was the oldest one left at home. They always going to school.
Okay.
Now, what did you do?
Well, I went to elementary.
You grew up in Flint, Michigan also?
I grew up in Flint, Michigan, only on the north side of the town. He was on the east side, so we were quite a ways apart.
Oh, yeah, across town.
When I was 15, before I was 16, my mother let me join a dancing class so that I would, well, I was very, very shy. And she wanted me to get out and meet people my age and stuff, so I joined this dancing class. And one of the girls that went to school with me was also in this class, and she gave a Christmas party, Christmas time. And she invited him and his boyfriend, because she was very interested in his boyfriend. Well, he didn't know how to dance, so he just sat and watched us. Well, right after that, he joined our dancing class, so we would learn to dance. And from then on, he was just a part of our family. Sometimes he'd come out to the house and stay.
Charlie, you have to.
Gotta-
You gotta hook him
He's gotta
up,
go outside.
Scott.
Come on.
He would come out to our house.
Go ahead, skip,
and-
Charlie, go on
yeah.
out, that's what you want.
He- Okay. I had two brothers. One was older and one was younger. And naturally, you grew up with two boys that's gonna tease you all the time, chase you around with stuff. I was
What were their names?
Raymond and Gerald. Gerald was the oldest, and Raymond and I were always the closest together. I mean, we were 18 months apart, and we were just close. You know. But I can always remember him fussing at my mother, she'd say. Because my mother would let me do something or go somewhere, maybe with him. She'd say, how come I can't go out and you let her go? You know, things like that. My brother would fuss about. But other than that, I don't remember really fighting with them. I just teasing boys. I always remember having cats. I always had a cat when I grew up. And we had a big dog. He was a Russian Greyhound. And his name was Spike. And we used to just lay around on, we could just roll all over the floor on him and everything. And if we didn't lock the door or shut it tight enough when we went out the door, he would push open the door and follow us down the road.
Okay.
In the car, you could see him, you know, because the Russian Greyhound.
Mm-hmm.
We had him till he was so old that we had to have him put to sleep. But he was probably about 21 years old. It was really, we had him a long, long time from the time we were little. And I don't remember a whole lot about my childhood. I went to school and I did really good. I did really good all through school. And at the end of the 9th grade, I had to have a B average so that I could get in Flint Tech. And I went there and I had a lot of studying to do, so I would bring my books home. They didn't have book bags back then like they do now. So I'd bring my homework home and he would, by that time, would be coming to the house because I was in the 10th grade and trying to help me with my homework. But I had so much every night that from the time I finished my supper till midnight, I was doing homework.
Yeah,
I had 8 solid subjects. We didn't have just 1 or 2 subjects I had. We were all,
you had to have 6 solids over there, didn't you?
well, yeah, I had to have 6, that's right.
In the other schools,
You only had to have 4.
4 or
In high school,
3.
In high school, you only had to have 4 subjects, the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Well, I had 6 solids in the 10th grade. And of course, between him and my mother, they fussed at me because I never had anything, I didn't have any free time to do homework all the time. So at the end of the 10th grade, I transferred to Northern. And then in September, that would be 1940, he went in the service, so he was gone all that next winter, and I would have loved to have had my homework to do more. I hated Northern in the 11th grade. I really hated it because there was so many cliquey people that didn't want you. You were a new one, and they didn't want you around. Till I met a girl that lived a couple streets from me, Priscilla, and we used to walk back and forth to school together, and then it seemed like it was nicer. But by that time, I was writing letters to him every day. So, I can't remember where I was at now.
Tell us a little bit about the letters that you would write back and forth.
Well, we wrote every single day, both of us. And, and that continued on until he was to come home in May of 1943, and they canceled his leave. He was in Trinidad or Puerto Rico.
Well, at the time I was
But you
in
were going-
St. Lucia, and
No, just before you came home.
well, just
When we
before
got
I
married,
come
you were in
home,
Puerto Rico.
I was in Puerto Rico.
Right. And we would write letters every day. And some of his letters, they were always censored, his letters were. So every once in a while I'd get one with a few holes in it because he mentioned something about
Said
the weather.
something I shouldn't have.
Well, something about the weather. Maybe there was a hurricane come through there or something, because they didn't, everybody didn't want to know exactly where he was at because he was working on bomb sites, and that was very hush-hush during the World War II. Nobody knew that they even existed in the United States because they kept them from, letting the enemy know that they had them. So I even had the FBI come to the house to find out that we were the right kind of people. We weren't communists or something else. Because I was engaged to him.
What was that like, having them show up? Did you know they were coming?
No, we didn't know they were coming. They just came to the door and they just said they wanted to ask us some questions. And they came on in and just asked my mother and me, they just asked us a bunch of questions. And then they said that they okayed us, I guess, because then they left and we didn't hear any more about them.
Mm-hmm.
But they
No
just wanted to be
way.
sure that we weren't knowing. I knew what he did and where he was at because one of the men that was down there with him came back to the United States and called me and told me. So that's more or less, I knew exactly what he was doing and what these bomb sites were. Stuff
Yeah,
that they
you
didn't
I
know
was
I
in
knew all
bomb
that.
sites, that's all.
Yeah. Right.
Do you remember how much it cost you to send a letter at that time?
Well, it was just, it might have cost you a little bit extra, like 3 cents for
Yeah,
postage,
airmail.
but you can make an airmail letter go, so that was a little bit more. But it didn't cost anything more.
So about 3 cents to mail a normal
3 cents a
letter, and
normal
then
letter.
a little more for airmail.
And
Probably
they was mailed to
an APO number.
an APO number, and my name, and that was all you put on the envelope. And of course, how the post office handled it, I don't know, but
So you didn't
we
put a
were just-
location or anything, you just,
from the mail and that, she didn't know where it
No.
was.
okay.
But that was everybody, that wasn't just me, that was all the outfits. Charlie,
That's
I
okay.
forgot, he's gonna bark. You know he would.
This is laid back. This isn't Barbara Walters on prime time. Although it's going to be much more valuable.
Yeah. So,
So, Grandpa.
then he was supposed to come home in May of 1943, and they canceled his leave.
Okay.
And like I was just telling Scott, when I first got engaged and I was sitting in church, this lady leaned forward to me and she said, "I want to make your wedding gown." And so she said, "All you have to do is buy the material." So she took me out and we went shopping and bought the pattern and material, and she made my gown. So I had it all ready for May. Then his leave was canceled and we didn't come home till December. And by that time I had made my mind that I should get married because he was only going to have a few weeks. I guess you had 3 weeks, didn't you?
I had 15 days
Yeah.
and 3 days traveling time
That's all he had.
after being overseas for 3 years.
So I said, well, maybe we should wait till the war was over before we got married. Well, he didn't want to. So we sat and talked about it for a long time. So then we had to really hurry up and put a wedding together, which is, I guess it was easier to do during the war because you didn't have to wait 3 days like from the time you went down to get your marriage license. Because he was a soldier, they would give you your,
Bypass all the red
Bypass.
tape.
the red
Okay.
tape to get you. So, that's why we were married in December instead of May like I thought we should, or would have liked to have been.
And which year was that, did you say?
1943. So
Who stood up for you in your wedding?
his brother, his older brother Glenn, don't point because they can't see that.
We'll take a look later when we take a walk around the house and
And
see
my
some of the
first cousin
pictures.
Dorothy McFarland was my matron of honor. And they were still here to come to our 60th wedding anniversary, which I think was wonderful. Still can't believe that they,
Did you guys come to that?
Yeah.
yeah, they did,
I
everybody
thought you
did.
did.
I wanted all my family there and they were all there.
And that was November of 2003.
December
December.
19th, 2003, we were married 60 years.
Grandpa, can you tell us a little bit about your role in the war? I mean, we've heard a little bit of where you were working,
I
but.
can tell you lots of stories about that.
Well, I started out in 1940. I graduated, and I was 19, and they were we had to register for the draft. I think it started in September of 1940. Is when it started. Well, in the meantime, I didn't want to be drafted. I wanted to do what I thought I wanted to do. So I joined the Air Force knowing that I was going to go to airplane mechanic school, which I did. And when I graduated from mechanic school, they come around to ask us where we'd like to go. They were going to give our class a choice of Panama or Hawaii, out in the Hawaiian Islands. And of course, I guess all of us said Hawaii. So I wound up going to Panama.
That saved him from being there at Pearl Harbor.
Oh, okay.
So this is before Pearl Harbor.
Were you the only one from your class that
See,
was
I
sent to
was
Vietnam?
enlisted in September of
Oh, okay.
1940. Pearl Harbor was December of 1941. I had been transferred, had been sent to Panama. Was there, I
Probably
don't
about
know,
half of the class.
three or 4 weeks, months. And one Sunday morning, the whistles blowing, hollering everybody out in formation. This is on a Sunday morning. And the first sergeant stands up and says, we're being transferred, the whole unit. They don't tell you where, they said you're being transferred. And that we had to have everything packed and be on a ship in Panama City by Wednesday, and this was Sunday. So, round the clock until we got everything going. And from there we went, I was on the Pacific side of the base, and we left there, we had to go back to the canal into the Atlantic, and we went to Trinidad. It's a British possession. And then I was in, well, I should tell you another story. First, when we got to Panama, the guy, first sergeant, when we were assigned to this bomb group, he says, well, he said, I know you're all mechanics, but the only thing we need at this time is truck drivers and clerks. What do you want to do? Well, I didn't like driving trucks, so I took a clerk's job. And it had to do with all the bombardiers and their records. And I was messed up with that. And when he got transferred to Trinidad, they couldn't and didn't have enough bomb site mechanics, which the bomb sites was always under guard. There was somebody around with a gun all the time. And we kept them in our office, because it's statistics for the bombardiers, and we kept the bomb sites. Well, then I wound up, they didn't have enough bomb site mechanics, and mechanics what I wanted to do anyhow, not be a clerk. So I went to bomb site school. And that's when they come to see her, her parents, is if you wasn't qualified